for those of you who haven't been here before, doesn't it look crazy different today?
Awesome.
Very good. Beautiful. First of all, we're not sitting on each other's laps. That's exciting. We actually were able to put a few more chairs in, and there's more room for chairs. I see our air conditioner is leaking. That's awesome. It is awesome, actually. It's a kind of a praise because it means the air conditioner got fixed.
Amen. Sort of.
But it also means the landlord's going to get busy fixing it again. But I'm amazed at what a difference tearing down walls makes.
Oh, yeah.
I could picture what it was going to look like in here, and yet when it happens, it's just different. The whole room looks different. You all look different as I'm looking out at you because just the space is different. It's just different. And so you might think that I'm just really good at metaphoraging, foraging for metaphors, and that I thought I'm going to preach a sermon about tearing down walls, and I'm going to schedule it so perfect. We're going to tear down walls. But sadly, as I was writing this sermon, even up to this morning, I was still looking for a good example of tearing down walls. And then I remembered, oh wait, we tore down walls this week. But I think it's something that we can pay attention to. It's such a like real example. Because I think walls create, we are good at building walls. I'm going to say we as people, but I'm even going to go a step further and say we as Americans, and I'll even go a step further than that and say we as people who identify as Christians, oh my goodness, we're good at building walls. We do so good at that. Who's in and who's out. It's a tale as old as time. And see, this church, the way that we've been talking about, we're in a series called, it's about the book of Acts. When the church acts up, it's the way, the early church, as they were forming. And we have this fantastic picture of them, was they're getting together and figuring, how are we going to be a church? And they're doing it. Everybody is welcome. The whole church started on the day of Pentecost with, I think, this emphatic statement from God that languages were being spoken that people didn't even know. It was this radical hospitality, this radical welcoming of it's not going to be a we-they thing, it's going to be an everybody is welcome thing. And then, of course, people got in the way. And so here they are, and they're thinking, okay, so that was awesome, that whole Pentecostal thing, that was cool. And yet, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I think that there's people outside of us who think that they're welcome. And we need to make sure that things are clear. And so literally, that's what is happening here. The way was, yes, founded on the principle of what Jesus did. We need to free the poor. We need to release the prisoners. We need to set the captives free. We need to help people who can't see for the Jewish community. And I'm not even saying that facetiously. The Christian church, as it began, was a movement in the Jewish church. It wasn't separate. It was part of. They were still very much identifying their Jewish roots and saying, yes, we are Jewish people who believe this way. And they wanted to stick with that, so they built these walls. They began building these walls. And Peter wasn't, completely set apart from it all. Peter struggled with this. And then there was this opportunity, and Cornelius was this centurion, Gentile centurion, I might add, an uncircumcised Gentile centurion who said, wow, look what's happening here. I want to be a part of that. And this was, I think, Peter's awakening moment. That, yeah, you know what? Maybe this Jesus thing is bigger than we think. Maybe God reaching down into the hearts of people, maybe God spreading love and grace is bigger than we have given God credit for. And so Peter went to Cornelius' house. That was a big deal, just walking in the house. And Peter shared a meal with Cornelius and his friends. That was a huge deal. Because Peter had seen this vision that what God makes cannot be filthy, cannot be profane, cannot be wrong. And so he had this nerve to do this, and it really angered the church. It was scandalous. I mean, how can you be God's chosen if everybody gets in? That really knocks your status down a little bit. How can you be special if everybody's special? Doesn't that kind of take away from the meaning of the word special? And that's the problem. I think that we want to be the chosen, right? We want to do what's required that nobody else can do so that we can be, look at me. It's good. I say it all the time. It's good to be right. Right? Oh my gosh, we feel that way. You can't rise above if everybody is promoted. And this was the deal that they were feeling right there. If we let Peter let them in, then we have to let everybody in. And are we sure that that's really what God has in mind? And I tell you, it is. I hear it all the time still. It wasn't just the early church that dealt with this. I still hear it all the time. One of the words that if I could just obliviate it from the English language, I would, is unbeliever. I'm so tired of hearing people categorizing other people in categories of unbelievers. As if to say, if you don't believe the way I believe, then your beliefs don't count at all. I had this fantastic discussion last night with a dear friend of mine who is a staunch and proud atheist. She is not a non-believer. She has beliefs and they're valued. They're valuable. And if I dismiss that as that doesn't count, what kind of person am I being in that? I want to take unbeliever completely out. I even struggle with the binary of Christian and non-Christian because I think there's so much more to it. And when we start putting that, then we have to start putting the ins in and the outs out. And it's a lesson that shouldn't be that difficult. I love being a grandma. Perhaps you didn't know I was a grandma. I'm a grandma. And Paxton is 3 years old, and so I get to watch really weird shows now. 3-year-olds, I don't know if they're on something or what, but they watch some weird shows. So I was watching Goldie Bear, or Goldie and Bear, maybe it's called, something like that. It's Goldilocks and her little bear that she hangs out with. And in this episode of Goldie Bear, it's all the fairy tale people that live together, and one of the Jacks, I think it was Jack B. Nimble, decided to have an all-Jack club. And only Jacks could join. So Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk was there, Jack B. Nimble was there, Jack had to leave Jill to go to be part of it. And then, of course, there's little Jack Horner, who wasn't really a valuable asset to the club because he just has a corner. Anyway, so there's this all-Jack club hanging out, and they find out that they can do far less as just them because they've excluded everybody else. And so at the end, I know it's crazy, huh? But it's good illustration. And so at the end, they decide to play this game of buttercup ball, which the buttercup flowers were like, it's kind of like, what's that game? Cricket? No? Yeah, I don't know. They were, no, what's that game where you catch and then you have like a little net on a stick?
Yeah. Lacrosse.
Yes, it was like lacrosse, but it was a buttercup ball. And they realized that Jack B. Nimble was just running all over the place and wasn't sharing, and it just wasn't fun. And then they let everybody in, and it was a powerful game. Silly, right? It's something that a 3-year-old's supposed to learn, and yet we walk around all the time with our All Jack Club. And it sounds stupid, but we do it. We just call it something different. And if you're a little bit different than me, you don't belong. And you have to sit on the outside. And what we forget is, when we do that, we don't just harm the people that we put on the outside. We harm ourselves. We take away from who God created us to be. Because I don't think God created us to be living in the binary of ethnicity, race, religion, class, socioeconomic status, neighborhood, culture, family of origin, sex assigned at birth, gender, profession, language, education, sexual orientation, political affiliation, citizenship, skin tone, and I could go on and on and on and on in all the ways that we want to categorize and divide ourselves, to make them out and us in. And that was never God's intention. The early church was no different than we are now. Unfortunately, the early church got the vision. They heard Peter when Peter said, God makes dirt so dirt don't hurt. They heard Peter when Peter said, if God created it, it cannot be bad. And so first I have to say, we have to stop allowing people to call other people bad in whatever language they want to use to do it.
Amen.
We get to stand up and say, no, no, that's a child of God. I will not let you. I will not let you say that. I will not let my ears be present in hearing that and make you think that it's okay. Because I will stand up for the people that don't fit in my little category, because I believe we are all one. In Ephesians, in the first chapter of Ephesians, like verse, I think it's like 21, there is a name given to God that has been translated as Patera of the Patria, which means the father, or the source, if you want to be inclusive, of every family name. In other words, this is where it all comes from, is God. And if we can identify that, if we could just knock all the differences out and go back to that, how powerful would that be? Peter's vision tore down the walls that claimed God's love is reserved for a few. Peter's visions tore down the walls that said God's grace is limited. Peter's vision tore down the wall who said God's reach is just shy of where it should be. And when we allow God to go beyond our constructed binaries and our limited categories, when we allow God to do that, we allow God to be bigger. It's no longer about who's in and who's out, but who recognizes their deep worth. Who knows that God has imparted their deep love into them, that they are in fact an image of God walking around. The commentarian Daniel B. Clendenden asks this profound question that I want to end with. How have we distorted the self-sacrificing, egalitarian love of God into self-serving, exclusionary elitism? What boundaries do I wrongly build? What boundaries might I bravely shatter? This morning, let us approach our faith with a sledgehammer. Let's tear down the walls that exclude. Let's open up the room to our great big God.